Welcome to Spiritual and Sassy, the podcast where we bleed deep soul wisdom with authentic confidence.
We're your host,
Tressa
and Myra, and together we'll explore the mystical side of life, challenge societal norms and programming, and embrace our inner power.
Whether you're on a spiritual journey or just love a little sass, this space is for you.
Let's dive in and light up the world with a little more love.
Hello.
Hello.
I got to one and really quickly. We have a little countdown. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then I took a gulp of water.
Yeah.
And I took too much and it almost wanted to go down the wrong side. I could feel it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this can't be how I enter into this episode. Please. Maybe so. Maybe just, just all over.
Choking to death.
That's symbolic of my life.
I can choke to death. I'll have a heat stroke because I had to turn off the fan because it was so loud in here.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I thought Tressa was in the bathroom, folks. Think of your most loud, obnoxious ventilation system fan thing in the bathroom turned on high speed. That's the sound I heard.
What it was. I could hear it too when I got in here and got my headphones on. I was like, so I just turned it down a notch, but no, I had to turn it off. It was pretty aggressive.
It was really aggressive. Well, and honestly, what's really cool with this beautiful, wonderful platform we use every week, you can totally eliminate little things depending on where I'm at, you can sometimes hear, and when we wear headphones, if anyone cares about behind the scenes stuff, I can hear everything. I hear my children and my dogs and my animals more clear than I hear them just sitting in a room without these headphones. The way the sound is picked up through the mic and through the channel, you can hear it all. But then when we go to edit, there's a noise cancellation thing and you can't even hear them. It's not really even there. But every little detail with this mic is picked up. And
right? It's so powerful.
Yeah. And then the fan is and you're like, oh gosh, she's in the bathroom. She's on an airplane. There was multiple scenarios.
Where is she today?
Yeah, where is she? Okay, we've lost her to the toilet.
It could be fun. Where are we recording from today?
Yeah, I like that.
So anyway, now that we've got that done, yes, you get your
so
water.
We're here.
I'll manage
I'm drinking.
to live without water. I went to grab a water, but I was telling Myra, my day has been one of not paying attention or something. I don't know what it is. So I got to work this morning, realized that I left my laptop at home, had to turn around, go back to my home, get my laptop, go back to work. Then I knew I'd be recording with Myra today at 1:30. And I left to go have lunch with a friend, go to pull into the studio to do the recording with Myra. No laptop. Had to go back to work and get the laptop. So I try to believe in divine timing because I call on divine timing every day, but it's challenging sometimes.
It's a Monday. Let me just tell you.
Yes, it is actually a Monday, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And we'll get into some of this in the episode too, but I'm coming off of a really eventful week myself. And before I left, we recorded and I made sure my mic, my headphones, my little light, my laptop, all my things were stowed away so that while I was gone, no good Samaritans would try to put my stuff away because it's do not lose it. Because there's a difference when you put your stuff away, you know where everything is, right?
Exactly.
So today I really did make sure. But all day long I've had a sticky note and I've stared at it. Record at 3:30. I cannot miss this recording. I'm doing it. So it's just kind of funny, how the brain works, I had all my stuff. I made sure all of it's ready. So I was actually ready today because I was I cannot do this.
I was early. So it was late. It's that show Freaky Friday, but on a Monday.
It is.
It's with reversed roles.
Yeah. Usually I'm flying from the ceiling.
Oh,
and blowing in. Yeah. But today I was here. I was woohoo. I was ready.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, today, do we want to jump into our topic here?
Yeah, let's roll.
So this is something we have talked about in a few episodes that we wanted to do an episode about and hadn't yet. It's something called the vibrational scale of consciousness. And I think when we end the show and I say keep your vibrations high, that's actually what I'm referring to is this vibrational scale of consciousness. Hinted around about it in a few episodes. So I just thought it'd be cool to really dive into what that is. And then talk about each level and just a kind of a brief description of what that level means. Basically, it's a framework that identifies our emotion, really, is what it is. And you can Google vibrational scale of consciousness, and there's tons of images out there that you can see. But basically, it ranges, they do numbers associated to emotions as well. And it starts at the low end of the scale at a 20. And then it goes up to a level between 700 and 1,000, with 20 being the emotion of shame, which is the lowest emotion that really a human can feel. And as I started to kind of dive into this, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, whenever it was, I found that to be interesting because I'd never really thought about shame before. But one of the things that as I started to think about shame, I thought, yeah, that makes sense because shame can only live in the darkness, right? It's where we take something and we hide it away, right? We don't talk about it. It's so, in our perception, bad or horrible or whatever it is, that you keep it in this box. And that's what shame is. Shame can't live in the light, right? It's that you're not worthy is the energy of shame. One of the things that I realized I had shame around, well, two things that I've really worked on and I can talk really openly about, and I have on this podcast many times, is being sexually molested as a child and then my father's suicide. Both of those were areas where I shied away from it, and I kept those things, specifically my own abuse more than my dad, but I kept those things in the shame box, right? And as I kind of healed through those and came out the other side, I've really been able to get out of shame and just allow it to be an experience that I had. And I've even found ways to really understand how it served me and how it's made me who I am today. And I view it actually in a positive way versus a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really love the term positive and negative,
Yeah.
but so that's the lowest energy on the scale of consciousness. And then you go up into guilt, like you did something wrong. Apathy, which is kind of just, you're in this neutral space, right? You don't have emotion around it. You're just there, for lack of a better description. Then fear, so you don't feel safe. Then desire. So this one's interesting too. And we've talked about this a little bit in some of our recent episodes. Like when I think about desire, you need something to make yourself happy.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, like, I've been purging my closet. I purged my jewelry box, things that I needed to make me happy or make me feel something, right? And there's all sorts of desires. That's just one example. And then it goes into anger, and then you go to courage, right? From anger, this isn't fair. Why is this happening to me? Those kind of things. Courage, I can do this. Then into neutrality. Neutrality, I like a lot. I talk about neutrality a lot with my clients because I let them know, like, everything is truly neutral until you give it meaning, regardless of what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. You are going to be the one to define the meaning of whatever's happening in your life, right? And that can be that it's so sad and detrimental, or it could be, this is gifting me with a challenging but beautiful experience. It's always going to be your narrative that gives it the meaning. So neutrality is kind of like halfway in the scale of consciousness to me, because it's where you really start to learn that you get to be the dictator of your story. You're the leader in the play. And then it goes into willingness, like being open. Acceptance. I love this one. I think of acceptance as the opposite of where we are in anger or guilt. Like, why did this happen to me? And acceptance is more of like, life is happening for me. I'm accepting what's happening, and I'm believing that these things are serving me in some way. And then reason, you're understanding it. Love, which is great. You're very connected to everything. And then above love is joy, and then peace, and then enlightenment or pure awareness. And it's funny because when I got my Reiki masters years and years ago, over 10 years ago now, the gal who taught it, she never talked about this scale at all. But one of the things that she taught us is she would have us tell our bodies, she would have us command our bodies to vibrate at 540. I never knew what that meant. I just trusted her.
Yeah.
But 540 is that joy energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's even above love.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I think of joy as a state of being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is an emotion, sadness is an emotion,
Yeah.
but joy can be a state of being. And so once I started to learn about this, I was like, oh, that's why she used that specific number,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and that was something that back then, I just did blindly because I trusted her. And every day I would say that to myself, right? And then I started to really understand what this scale of consciousness was and why she selected that specific number. And then I just want to say one more thing, and then I'll let you just talk a little bit too, Myra. But, understanding this and knowing the vibrational scale of emotion is really important, but it is not about bypassing your feelings either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't want to do that. You don't just say, go from necessarily like that guilt or shame or even fear and immediately jump into peace and joy. Like, it doesn't mean you have to be there all the time, right?
Yeah.
You could fluctuate, but it's about having a level of awareness of what's happening, why you're feeling those things, and then working to move forward out of them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that I know to be true is feelings have to be felt to be moved through.
Yep.
There's a book, I can't remember the author, it's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. But that's the premise of it, right? You will
Yep.
never move out of it until you feel the feeling of it, the emotion of it. And then you can start to move yourself up.
Yeah.
So that's my little spiel about the vibrational scale of consciousness or emotion.
Yeah, I was first introduced to it from Tressa. It was like session 1. Look at this, And I have it on my phone or I had it around, but I never really, it's there. You think about it, and like we've mentioned before, healing is, it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Mhm.
Different points in your life, you process information differently, you listen to things differently, you take it differently. That's why you keep going back, or you keep doing it, or like they say 21 days makes a habit, or 30 days, you got to keep doing things or whatever it is. Or when you revisit people or places or time or things or healing, you're always at a different spot in your life as you digest certain pieces of information and stuff, right? So, I've thought about the scale of consciousness. Maybe I could speak. I thought about this vibrational scale of consciousness, but I hadn't really like thought about it until I think it's more than a month ago. It was almost like maybe a month or 2 months ago when I like revisited it, and then I was looking at it and thinking about where I was currently at. It's crazy because I seriously was just ping-ponging between shame and pride. Like, as Trez is saying, you might go from one or another. You might not be in one place all the time or whatever it is. It's like I would just cycle through the shame, the guilt, the apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, and go back again. And it's like a cycle. It's like I just stayed in the lower states. And even though I thought I wasn't, until I really thought about it and looked at it and digested, like, okay, these are the pinpointing things, like, because they're associated, like Tressa was mentioning, different things they can be associated with. And one of the ones is like fear is associated with anxiety, or grief is associated with your vibrations, regret, where you could be feeling like tragic, or apathy is hopelessness, or pride, one of the ones it's associated with is being demanding, and then superiority, like there are all these different levels and the way they ping pong back and forth. And I think about, we've mentioned so many times, or I have, about the ending of a job, which, is just really, really, really tied to identity, and it was tied to my identity. And I ping ponged around all of these vibrations, especially around that, and I've ping ponged around these vibrations on many, many things in my life. I would even say my finances, like feeling shameful about buying things, or what have I done, or what am I doing with my finances, and feeling guilty, then going through grief or fear with finances and money, and that ties back to job. And then, like we've mentioned, the purging the closet. I've been in that state of desire where all I did was buy more things. Like, how does that make sense? Or like trying to feel something or to put something in or to just really ping pong around those things. And what's really neat, as I'm looking at these, like I view the progression of the frequencies so much more different than just like levels, because before, when I was introduced to these, I would think of them as like a level, like a place of being. And they are levels. They are levels. It literally says levels, but like, okay, you're in fear, or okay, or you're in desire, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until like a couple months ago that I really started seeing it as actually like a true cycle of healing. Like you're really like moving through it, and it's so fun. And like, I pulled it up before the episode began so I could have it in front of me too, as we're talking. And like, what I've been going through, like even moving into courage, being empowered, like I've been going through things where I've had to make some really big decisions, and having the courage to, one, admit it, two, to do it, and then three, to be like authentic about it and to share if I choose to share, right?
Yes.
Then it's in that neutrality state, like Tressa mentioned. I mean, it was a good place to be. I was trusting, like I have no damn clue what's about to happen, but at this point I'm trusting that I'm taking the right steps and this is what I need to do to move forward. And then the willingness one, like being hopeful. And I have been optimistic. I have been really, really hopeful about like what's to come, what I'm doing, like the changes that are being made, the beauty of what's happening. And then moving into acceptance. And part of the vibration that's attached to that is forgiveness. Like I'm forgiven whatever decisions were made previously. It's over. I'm accepting where I'm at. I'm in harmony with where I'm at. I'm happy with this season and what's going on. And then like from there, you move into those higher states. And it's so fun because like I was just telling Tressa before, like last week I work remotely now, like fully remotely, and I've never met anyone that I work with before in person, like not a single one of them. So I flew to Florida, which was wonderful and sunny and hot and miserable at the same time. But I went from like it was horribly hot and humid to horribly, horribly hot and humid. So it just went up a step.
Double.
Just like,
All the
woo,
H's.
yeah, I was like,
Horrible and
woo, yeah,
humid.
exactly. So I went, and what I do for a living, I do marketing, but part of that, marketing means many things. But one of them just so happens to be like writing in general, just whether it's messaging, copy, preparing content, all those fun things. But one of the things that like, I think when you think about it is my work is always public. Like I can't say I didn't do, or I did this, and then obviously if it's not there, you know it didn't happen,
Yeah.
or like what I make is on display for everybody every day, whether it's my coworker, myself, scrabbers, it's everywhere, And, so I say it like it's tangible, like you can physically look at how I'm performing,
Mm-hmm.
or like what the performance of something I'm making is. And, I should actually rephrase that, because I've grown from seeing the performance of something I've created is not tied to the performance of how Myra is as an employee or a person. Those two things are separate. This is a job created task, piece of copy. It is not a reflection of me as a person. And so when I went to this beautiful on-site, it was very well done. It was really great. But part of what I do ties to generating revenue. So when you are tied to generating revenue, and I know Tressa's laughing because she
I get it.
feels it times 100 because she gets to wear the cool queen hat with it also, like it's a lot, it's a lot. And it's like, well, we're not making money like we should be. So they start doing the inverted pyramid to figure out where is it coming from, right? And not everything is tied to the messaging or the copy. There are many, many factors. And when you're in marketing, you learn all those factors because you're like, oh, you're playing a little bit of defense. Like, okay, wait a second. Well, what about where the ad was placed, or what about the product, or what about how the subscribers react? There's a million things. And then even with what I'm doing, I'm pushing people through, like I'm pushing people to sign up through a journey that I have no control over. So I don't know. I can just get them where I can click them through. And then because I'm not working for the company that I'm pushing them to, I have no control over it, So like, again, totally out of my control. I'm just getting them there to the clicky part, right? But some language was used that was really interesting, and it was called bad copy. Like publicly, my work was called bad, and it really isn't bad. And I know it's not bad, and I'm not even just saying that to make myself feel better. It's not bad. It is generating revenue. It's doing well. We can always be better. I feel like language could have been used differently, but I was telling Tressa before this, because like we've mentioned, we kind of talk back and forth. And also too, like Tressa's worked with me and been my manager or my director, so this is even more relevant because she knows me on that level too, and I was telling her, I'm like, oh my God, you would have, like, seriously, I'm proud of myself because it was pretty brutal. And, like my copy was put on display, copy's messaging again, if I haven't said that already, but it's everything I wrote was on display. And so the president of the company is asking, well, why did you do this? Or why did you do that? And why did you do this? Or why did you do that? And I'm having to respond in real time. First off, I don't even remember writing it because I write things all the time. So I had to like go back in time and be like, well, what was I thinking? This was like a month ago. So I had to think about it. And there's a formula and a science, but there's also intuition with marketing and writing and things like that. Like that's the beauty of it. And so I'm having to explain these things and then answer things, but then hash it out publicly. 2 years, I would say 2 years ago, maybe 3, but I would definitely say at least 2 years ago, I would have been emotionally not okay. Maybe even a year ago, honestly. Like I really have changed a lot from being the balance between assertiveness and aggressiveness. So I definitely would have been assertive. I don't think I would have went into aggression, but I would have got emotional for sure because it would have felt like a personal attack on me as a human, like Myra, the individual. I did not even get emotional. I laughed because I was just like, this is weird. I didn't expect like this to happen. I had no idea this was the agenda. And it was brutal feedback. I mean, it really was. It wasn't like, yay. It wasn't. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and answered the best that I could, did the best that I could say. And I didn't and I still even feel at peace now. Like I'm cool. Like I am so cool with, it was a good thing. I feel like I'm grateful for the experience because it actually gave me the direction I've been asking for, more information, more context, more data, all those beautiful things that go into the science part of my job. But what's really cool is I really believe that I have seriously moved to a higher level of the level of consciousness.
Yeah.
And I really believe so. I really believe that I have truly, truly, truly worked through all those things that were holding me back, where I was vibrating at such a low level. Like I felt outwardly, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing great. I'm not, and that's not that bad. But because I wasn't truly living in authenticity, I was vibrating at a very low level. And now that I have moved level by level by level, here I am. And I was telling Tressa, I'm like, I am so much more secure in myself. Like, I know I'm a wonderful marketer. I know that I'm great at all these things and I'm really good at doing these things and it is working. But that was just an experience for me to learn how to be better. It wasn't personal. It wasn't about me. It's about business. And Myra and business are two separate people. Like before, my identity would have been completely intertwined with that. And they're two separate things. Like who I am and my talents and my abilities are not intertwined anymore in the identity of Myra and her career. And I know that. And it was just a whole different dynamic. I didn't blow up. I didn't get upset. One guy I work with was like, I would have went home and booked the next flight out. And I'm like, I was okay. I really was fine. And like, even my director, at one point he did really well, but you could even feel like it was tense. It was a little tense, but I feel great. And I really do believe that it's because of really like working through all the things and I'm vibrating at such a different level now. It's like I'm a completely different person. And we talked a couple episodes ago about the ego death or whatever you want to call it. And like vibrating at such a low level is your ego and all of that. And so it's like for the first time, like, I'm like, oh my God, like I've really done it. I'm doing it. It's really happening. But it's because I've actually addressed what was truly causing shame and guilt in my life and releasing some of this. There's other things and I've bounced through these vibrations, but just most recently and, relevant to the experience of last week, it was those things that I had been going through that we've talked a lot about on several episodes. And in my identity, it's a totally different thing. It's not anymore associated with a work environment anymore.
Yeah. That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. Because, yeah, you're right. I mean, a year ago, I would have probably had a whole different Myra I was talking
Mm-hmm.
to today had that happened to you. Because you did have such, well, it's interesting. We do tie our identity to so many things outside of ourselves. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us tie our identity to, you know, whatever it is that we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing, or being a mother, or whatever the
Whatever
label
it
is
is.
that you're giving yourself. Yeah. But what that tells me is you've gone beyond that. Myra is so much bigger than a person who writes copy and does
Yeah.
marketing, right? That's an aspect of something that you do and something you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't give you your self value anymore. You don't need some payoff there for that,
Yeah.
which is great. And I think when you can start to get there, I've seen this in myself and other people that I've worked with. When you can get there and you can stay in that energy center more and
Mm-hmm.
more, that level of consciousness, things actually start to bloom even more than you could have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Like in whatever aspect, right? Career wise, whatever it is, because you're doing it with such a space of authenticity and true security that you're putting that energy out there instead of that energy of neediness, right? That energy of, oh, this has to work, right? There's so much pressure on
Yeah.
this piece of what I'm producing to produce X,
Mm-hmm.
that energy actually amplifies. You get the opposite of what you usually want when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting as you were talking, I just wrote down a couple of things because, um, I do my best to every morning put an intention that I'm going to vibrate at 500 or above, right? I use the word love and joy and peace because that's where I want to be. However, there are spaces in my existence that I can stay there quite easily. And then there are other things where I still drop down. And I was really thinking about this weekend. One of the things that still brings me fear is driving in a car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if I'm a passenger, it's worse. So this weekend, I thought, okay, this is telling you something. You're not going to get out of this without understanding the why,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm like, you teach people this all the time. Like, pay attention to it for yourself, girl.
Mm-hmm.
We were driving yesterday. I was riding. Troy was driving, which is never a great experience because of this, right? But when I started to feel anxious, the very first thing I started to do is go in my body, where is the feeling happening? Where is the feeling happening? Because your body is telling you something. And I saw, okay, the feeling's in my gut. It's in my tummy. It's in my sacral. Okay. Then I just sat there like, why in the world do I have it in my head that these semis are just going to ram into me? Like, that's what I think, right? If they're by me, they're just going to ram me over. Like I'm,
They're coming for you.
they're
Yeah.
coming for me, Myra. I just know it. So I started thinking, okay, it's in your sacral. You feel anxious. And it really took me back to, okay, it's your next space of healing. Because that's where I have I've talked about a lot of my trauma. That's a trauma chakra. And as a child, there were so many things larger than life for me as a little person that I couldn't control that did run me over, right? And I'm like, this is what it is about. It's not that I've ever had, well, I've had weird shit with semis, but, I've never been killed by one or maimed that I know of. Anyway, it goes back to that. And once I could uncover that, then I can start to deal with the next layer of what that has to be healed.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I'm going to get rid of that fear and anxiety at some point, right? It will go away. You have to start to recognize what is your root issue, right? What is the cause? And going back into the body and identifying that and just taking a few moments to pay attention instead of just being reactive to it. It was really profound for me to kind of really sit with that yesterday and go, okay, what is happening? And now I know that there's more energy to be released there, right? And I'm going to work through that. And I hope, no, I'm not even going to say hope. I just know that one day I'll be on this podcast and I'll be like, guess what? I was able to ride to Evanston 30 miles and not have a freak out. Like, it's going to happen one day.
I'm sending it to you because I've been the driver as her being
Oh,
the
yes.
passenger.
Mara's experienced this with me.
And
This
I'm
is
not
not
even the best
unique to
driver.
one person. Anybody that, yeah, Anybody I ride with a lot can attest to this issue. Myra, David, Brian, yeah, Troy, and most of the time he'll just be like, you drive because it is
Well,
hell.
yeah,
And I
we'll
don't
get
blame
like
him.
postcards when you're healed.
Yes.
Like, thank you for being a part of that. No, I'm just kidding. Your thank you notes. Or sorry. No
Yeah.
sorries. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just saying, like, within different things, you're
Mhm.
going to feel different energy levels of this scale of consciousness. But awareness is the key. And you
Mhm.
commented on that before when you were talking earlier about how you had to really start to go, I'm really not okay with this. Like you could pretend you were, but
Yeah.
your emotions was telling you something different. And until you
Mhm.
started to really be truthful with yourself, things couldn't start to shift.
Oh yeah, like if you think about it, then nobody, I mean, let's just talk about, I mean, even last episode, we're saying being kindness, right? And I
Mhm.
mentioned, I was going to go into this week just displaying as much, just trying to be kind. Like, and it really, a lot of what like I've been uncovering too is even listening to the conversations that are like what people are saying to me, words people are using to me, the way people are reacting towards me. And as I'm learning about myself and my own feelings and why I might feel this way and react this way, it's really given me a deeper understanding of maybe why other people are reacting the way they're reacting, or why they're using the words they're using, or why they're saying things that they're saying. And, it really does come down to just that self awareness of, okay, before I would have felt attacked. I'd have felt attacked. I would have felt I wasn't good enough. Before I would have felt like they hated me or they didn't like me or that it was about me and that I wasn't meeting their standards. And, uncovering a lot of that just goes back to, it goes back to being loved or appreciated or being worthy. It's worthiness. Really, if you even go back down, like peel it way back, there's always a root, usually it's like, way more deeper than that, but like worthiness, I think you could even tap back to that worthiness. And my identity was attached to worthiness. Then what did that mean? And like,
Mhm.
I have really, shifted the way I feel about what defines my worthiness. It's not attached to anything external anymore. Like then they, like I said, it goes deeper than that. I don't tie it to the external things anymore. And I thought that before, if I did A, B, and C and D, Myra equaled this. And that's just not true. That's not true. And it's changed the way I present myself and hold myself and the way, truly I feel that we're all, when people are under pressure, like you said, when they're under pressure and they start performing, like it just starts
Mhm.
going, you feel restricted. Think about
You
like, oh
do.
my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I don't live in that space anymore. I don't restrict myself or make myself small or like get, about it, because then I was just making things worse. It was not coming out good. It was coming out bad. It was bad, And, when you like listening to what they're saying, I can see pressures that people are facing and they're performing under pressure, right? And they're saying things under
Yes.
pressure. And so giving grace in that. And I know that it has nothing to do with Myra, the person, and it's really neat because like I'm not change. I mean, I'm going to take the feedback and then process it as I need to, but I'm not going to produce my work under that restricted feel. I don't feel restricted. I feel enlightened. Like, okay, cool. Now I have more context. Now I have more information. Now I'm going to be able to do this or this or this and optimize. That's such a buzzword, but whatever, like it's such a horrible buzzword, but optimize and create things based on the knowledge that I've been given. And turning, lemons into lemonade, I guess. I don't even know. Like it wasn't lemons, but it was sour feedback, but turning it into something beautiful, like it was just,
Mhm.
but yeah, like I feel that, it's in a place of really having that goal, like at the higher end of the scale is love. And then like Tressa said, she starts her day with love, joy, putting that intention out there. And ultimately that is what I'm trying to achieve myself. And knowing that is just love, giving love and feeling that I'm receiving love and that it's not out there to hurt me. Like these people were not out there to hurt me. They're not. They care deeply about me. This isn't like brainwashing or gaslighting, I promise. They didn't know how to use these words to say what they were really trying to say. And I know that.
Yeah. I think it's cool because you went from a space of neutrality and you said this, like, I'm not going to allow it to be restrictive, which you could have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to allow it to be expansive. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure some of whether the words they used, they were probably more limiting because of the pressure, right? And
Yeah.
the pressure on them to turn X into this amount of money. And we both know
Mm-hmm.
that world. But you're going to
Yeah.
allow it to let you be more expansive because some of what was said, I bet you took some and you thought, okay, yeah, that actually I could use that. I could shift that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you have that expansive energy, then whatever you're producing will continue to produce in an expansive way. If you would have chose to accepted it in a more restrictive energy and let it shift you and the way that you would have put the energy out,
Mm-hmm.
none of this would be good for you, your boss, or your clients, right?
No. Oh
But
my
the way that
gosh.
you're going to approach it will be cool because I think you'll start to see it become even more and more successful. And I've had to really work on that too because the pressure of corporate America is all about the
Mm-hmm.
dollar, right? And then you start to feel the pressure. As a leader of a marketing team, I've had to really pay attention to first of all, allowing that pressure to get to me and the way that I produce. And then am I letting it go down below me because they will produce in the same way.
Yep.
And the more that I've been aware of that and the less that I choose that path, the more and more success we've had and the more we've grown. But it's just that level of awareness. And it's so easy to get caught back on the rabbit wheel. You can jump back on that hamster wheel and, be there for days, weeks, months without
Oh yeah, I would
recognizing
have
it.
like spun on it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, honestly, like I think of a lot of the things in different scenarios I've been placed in, and I would have normally just been hung up on it for days and days. And like I get over things fast, but I'll talk about it forever. Like I'll like
Yep.
talk about it till I die. Yeah. And I would have been like still running on it, and just hamster wheeling it. You're right. But
Yeah.
as you were talking, it made me think, I've been telling people because people keep asking me like, "Oh, Myra, how are you? What is going on?" Like I don't fucking know. But I'm like, seriously, I've had the most beautiful last couple months in the shittiest circumstances because I've decided that my ultimate goal is freedom. And then, I mentioned this before and saying, what does freedom mean for me? Freedom means expansion. So you can even take it to that level. Like I've defined freedom in other ways, freedom in finances, freedom in love, freedom in decisions, and blah, blah, blah. And like I've learned I don't perform in restrictiveness. It's just not for me. I just cannot. It does not equal anything good for me in my life. And as I've been letting go or releasing, whether it be material objects or mental space or feelings and emotions and working through things or people or bound or whatever the hell it is, and I'm becoming more expansive and I can feel how life is expanding for me altogether, whether it be in personal, professional, myself only, or whatever is happening around me. I mean, you're right. Like and even letting those restrictive pressures go, I can see the way life is becoming more expansive around me, whether it's even in my subconsciousness too has become more expansive. Like it's just the coolest thing. Like letting these little things go away, I'm vibrating at such a higher level. Not that I've got it
Yeah.
figured out. So I want people to know that. It's not like I'm like vibrating magic, but I feel good. I mean, it's a cool
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah, I get that. And it's interesting because I don't believe anyone ever performs well in restrictive energy. They get comfortable in it. And I think it's a survival mode. And I think a lot of people are used to it because that's the way we've been programmed to be. But that is the opposite of what you're speaking of. When you think about freedom, that is an expansive energy. And freedom is, I think it's different for everyone, but it's being able to be in your authentic skin, do things the way that you need to do them for you and what serves you best. And the people who can be served by that will be around you. And the people who aren't meant to be don't have to be in that sphere, and that's okay. It's not a controlled environment, right? Kind of goes back to one of the very first episodes we did. And one of my topics that Myra hears me talk about all the time is how much I despise labels, because just because I'm your daughter, mother, sister, brother, second grade aunt. It doesn't mean that I have to do something to make you feel a certain way or act a certain way. And we're so subscribed to that model.
Yep.
But then
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
you know, energy of constrictiveness. Like I have to go.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
supposed to show up. And all I can think is, well, go if you want to go, but go and experience it the way you want to experience it. But most people
Yeah.
aren't in that space. It's like an obligation that they
No.
have to do. And I'm like, well, it's probably going to
Exactly.
suck. So
Yeah, you already
maybe,
ruined it
I
before
don't
you
know.
got there. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, that's also too,
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
if it's, yeah, you know, I mean, think about all the things we've ever done or gone to, and you don't want to go, so you go anyways. And so, yeah, ultimately, it probably will be a horrible experience. It's already going to suck, like, whether or not you need to be there. If you've already put it out there, it's just, it ain't it.
No. And I've really come to the point where, like, if I don't want to go, I'm not going to go. I'm not going
No.
to feel this pressure. In fact, it was funny because this happened to me months ago in March. One of my cousins called me and said, hey, we're thinking about doing a family reunion in Du Bois over the 4th. One of my uncles has not been doing well and he lives up there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, keep me posted, blah, 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 blah. Well, I never heard another thing. And frankly, it was out of my head. Right. So then last week, I was texting my cousin for his birthday and he's like, hey, are you going to be in Du Bois? I'm like, for the 4th. And I'm like, no. Well, this whole thing got planned around me. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. So some of my cousins, uncles, aunts are all going. Right. Well,
Yeah.
then their guilt started to get to them because my aunt called me and then my cousin called me and they're like, well, if it's a room, do you need a room? Because we have an extra room. And I'm like, I don't need anything, guys. Like, I didn't know about it. It wasn't in my plans. I already have other plans. Like I'm okay. Like go and enjoy. Let me know how things are. I'm not going to
Yeah.
go out of a feeling of obligation or to ease your guilt that, hey, you forgot to invite Joseph. Because
Exactly.
I view it very differently. As I think, well, I probably wasn't meant to be there at this point. The
Yeah.
universe doesn't make mistakes, right? Now I could
Exactly.
put all this pressure on myself and try to change everything and appease everyone and go. But it's like, nope, there's a reason. I already had other things planned and I'm just going to roll with that. And,
Exactly.
you know, it's all okay. You know, I'm
Yep.
not going to let the pressure get to me.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I hope they have a great time if any of them
Me
listen to the
too.
podcast.
I like it. Anthem of the summer. It wasn't meant
That's
for
right.
me anyway. Don't worry about it.
But choose your own happiness, people. Like
Yeah,
really
exactly.
start to choose you.
Yep.
You know, start to drop the labels. You will not find true joy until you start to do that, you know?
100%.
So, all right. Well, anything else before we end today? Can think of?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Don't
a
quit
good
your
one.
day job. I'm just
Finally.
kidding. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm
Myra.
also like a little delulu at this moment, folks. I'm just tired. That's my wisdom. Don't quit your day job. Just kidding. Maybe you should. Maybe you should.
Maybe you should.
Yeah, maybe you
Actually,
definitely should.
one of my mentors talked about this. It's a coach that I had. And every week when it would be on our call, he would basically encourage me to quit my job. But then there would be this caveat to it because he knew deep down, if you quit your job in an energy of fear, you're going to take the energy of fear with you. And so some people can do it. Just some people could say, peace out, I'm going to go do this or that, and I'm just going to jump off the cliff. But most people are not built that way. So really, then he would always come back to the caveat of, if you could do it in this energy, which most people can't. So start to take baby steps towards something else, right? What else do you want to put yourself out there to do and make time for that?
Exactly.
So probably don't quit your day job.
Day job. Not yet. Raise your vibrations first. Then you can.
That's right. So until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
And stay sassy.